Hello class. In this video, I'm going to take a look at it's the business scenario problem 27-3. All right, so business scenario problem 27-3 plus when I'm done with that, I'll look at the reviewing problem, which is at the end of the chapter, right before you see the vocabulary that's listed in the textbook. All right, so let's take a look at 27-3. This problem will help us look at the defenses that are available when you have an instrument that's been transferred, and we'll be able to see also that the special protection given to the special holder, the holder in due course. Let me just read this problem for you. Niles sold Kennedy a small motorboat for $1,500, telling Kennedy that the boat was in excellent condition. Kennedy gave Niles a check for $1,500, which Niles endorsed and gave to Fraser for value. When Kennedy took the boat for a trial run, she discovered that the boat leaked, needed to be painted, and required a new motor. Kennedy stopped payment on her check, which had not yet been cashed. Niles had disappeared. Can Fraser recover from Kennedy as a holder in due course? Take a look at this. All right, you see what's happened here. This is similar to the original example we looked at with the BMW that the purchaser bought from the dealer. The dealer had transferred the check, though, to a finance company, and now that the car had broken down, the buyer didn't want to pay on the check. All right, we learned there that the buyer still had to pay because the finance company had become a holder in due course. Now, in this scenario, we have something similar, right? We have the seller who received a check for $1,500. He's endorsed it and passed it on to Fraser, who is very much like the finance company. So, can Kennedy now stop paying and not owe any more on this boat, or does she have to pay to Fraser? And can Fraser then assert his rights and collect, even though the boat is not in good shape? All right. Well, Fraser would have to be a holder in due course. In order to do that, we can tell that he is a holder in due course, though, right? What do you need to qualify to be a holder in due course? Fraser would need to have done the following: pay for value, take without any notice of any problem, skipped a point. In good faith, take in good faith, and take without notice of any problem or any kind of defect. Has he done those three things? Has he paid value? The problem tells you he has paid value. Has he done this in good faith? Is this done in an honest way? Is there anything to show you that Fraser has any kind of knowledge of any problem in the transaction? Is he conspiring with Niles? No, there's nothing there. Fraser is acting in good faith. And then third point, does he do it without notice of any problem or defect? Yes, Fraser does pay for value and without any knowledge of a defect. So he is a holder in due course. He will be able to collect from Kennedy. And that leaves Kennedy then to do what? She must take her issues, her problem with the transaction to Niles. She will have problems finding Niles because it seems like Niles is taken off. He's disappeared. And that is unfair. I realize that, and the law realizes that. But the law is protecting Fraser in this particular instance. We'll move on and take a look at the reviewing problem. Let me just scroll over here. Right. There are 4 questions that are associated with the reviewing problem. We'll only look at 3 of them, though. All right. I'm going to skip the 4th one. All right. So let me read through the facts with you. See if you can identify the issue so that you know which part of the chapter, what particular rule that we talked about will apply. Nancy Mahar was the office manager at Golden Years Nursing Home. She was given a signature stamp to issue checks to the nursing home's employees for up to $100 as advances on their pay. The checks were drawn on Golden Years' account at First National Bank. Over a 7-year period, Mahar wrote a number of checks to employees exclusively for the purpose of embezzling funds for herself. She forged the employees' endorsements on the checks, signed her name as a second endorser, and deposited the checks in her personal account at Star Bank. The employees whose names were on the checks never actually requested them. When the scheme was uncovered, Golden Years filed a suit against Mahar, Star Bank, and others to recover the funds. Using the information presented in the chapter, answer the following questions. Let me scroll down a little. All right, now with regard to signature liability, which provision of the UCC discussed in this chapter applies to this scenario? All right, I know that that's a little technical for us. Maybe I should have eliminated that question as well. But what is this? Not that we need to identify the section by number, but what are we talking about here? We are talking about some exception to the rule regarding liability that comes with a signature. All right, if you recall, we talked about unauthorized signatures as well as unauthorized endorsements. So this particular problem involving Nancy and her scheme to embezzle funds, this is about an unauthorized endorsement. She is creating checks and then endorsing them to cash them, right? So that's an unauthorized endorsement. What's the rule that's set forth by this provision? All right, what did we talk about earlier? We talked about how if there is an unauthorized endorsement, the first party to receive it after the unauthorized endorsement, which would typically be a bank, will be responsible and be liable for having paid out improperly. And so if the check comes back, that's the bank who took the check would be responsible. That's the standard rule. However, when we have a case like this, Nancy, someone like Nancy, who is an employee and basically stealing or embezzling from her employer using an unauthorized endorsement, that's the exception. And where will the loss fall? The loss will be on the employer, who has a responsibility to supervise Nancy. All right. This is a situation we refer to as a fictitious payee. That's the exception to the general rule. All right. So the fictitious payee is created by Nancy. She works for Golden Years, who is her employer, and they have a responsibility to supervise her work. All right, so that's the rule that's set forth in this provision. Now, number 3, under the UCC, which party? Will it be Golden Years or Star Bank who must bear the loss in this situation, and why? All right, well, we've been talking about that as I walked you through the earlier parts of the problem. So the party that will be responsible is Golden Years. That's the employer. They are in the best position to supervise Nancy. And so that will then relieve the bank of any responsibility or liability that it would typically have in a general scenario. All right. So under UCC, yes, Golden Years will bear the loss, and that will leave them to track Nancy down, sue her, and get the money from her. The bank will be relieved of responsibility. All right. I hope that helps you to understand the concept of fictitious payee from the chapter. And again, if you have any questions, if you want to talk about any of these problems, of course, online here, we can do that during office hours, or we can make an appointment and I can spend some time with you that way. All right. I am going to make one more video in connection with this chapter. It'll be a video on the problem that I have posted to the module and that you are doing separately from MindTap. All right, so I'll see you in that last video. All right, bye-bye.